I still remember the sound of the applause, the echo of hundreds of hands clapping inside that giant auditorium, and the proud smile on my daughter's face as she walked across the stage. It was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives, the kind of memory a mother treasures forever. But little did I know that day would turn into a nightmare. That very stage, decorated with flowers and banners celebrating achievement, became the place where my entire world shattered in front of everyone. I had woken up that morning with excitement bursting in my chest. My daughter Emily was finally graduating. Years of hard work, sleepless nights, and countless sacrifices had led to this moment. I ironed her gown myself, laid out her cap, and even pinned her hair just the way she liked it. I was nervous but proud, so proud that I could hardly breathe. My husband, Michael, seemed calm as always, though a little distant. I thought he was just anxious like me. I didn't ask questions because in my mind nothing could ruin this day. The ceremony began beautifully. Music played, students marched, and proud parents cheered. When Emily's name was called, Michael and I stood together, clapping and whistling like teenagers. My eyes filled with tears as she walked across the stage, her diploma in hand, her face glowing with joy. She looked for us in the crowd, and when she spotted us, she waved with the kind of smile that could light up the darkest night. That moment should have been perfect. But it wasn't. When the ceremony ended, families rushed to hug their children. Emily ran toward us, arms wide open. I wrapped her tight in my embrace, and for a second nothing else mattered. Then Michael pulled her into his arms, whispering something into her ear that made her eyes widen in confusion. I didn't hear it clearly, but Emily's forced smile told me something was off. We walked outside into the warm New Texas air. The sky was golden, the kind of sunset you only see once in a while. Friends and families were taking pictures, laughing, crying, celebrating. Emily begged us to take a picture together. I agreed instantly, pulling Michael closer, but he hesitated before wrapping his arm around me. His touch felt cold, lifeless. And then in front of dozens of families, teachers, and even our daughter, Michael cleared his throat. His face was pale, but his eyes were sharp, determined. "I need to say something," he announced, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Everyone turned. Emily froze. I frowned, thinking maybe he wanted to give some emotional speech about how proud he was. But what came out of his mouth destroyed me. "I can't do this anymore," he said flatly. "I've found someone new." The words didn't register at first. My brain refused to accept them. My ears rang as if I had been slapped. Someone new? On our daughter's graduation day? In front of her? Emily gasped, covering her mouth. I felt my knees weaken, but I forced myself to stand tall, even though inside I was collapsing. Whispers spread around us like wildfire. Parents stared, teachers exchanged glances, students froze mid-step. Some looked away out of pity. Others leaned closer to witness the scene unfold. Michael didn't even blink. He just stood there, arms crossed, as if this was some business announcement and not the destruction of 22 years of marriage. "You're joking, right?" I whispered, my voice trembling. But deep down I knew he wasn't. "No," he said coldly. "I've been seeing someone else." I didn't want to keep pretending. "I'm done." The crowd gasped, but his words kept cutting me deeper. Emily's diploma slipped from her hands and fell to the ground. I wanted to scream, to collapse, to run. But my body betrayed me. I stood there, frozen, while my daughter's tears stained her fresh graduation gown. Michael didn't comfort her. He didn't comfort me. He just looked past us, as if we were already part of his past. And then, as if that wasn't enough, he added something that made my stomach twist. Something no wife or mother should ever hear in such a moment. "I wanted you both to know now because she's here." I blinked, my heart slamming against my chest. "Who?" I demanded, my voice breaking. And then slowly, like a scene out of a cruel movie, a woman stepped out from the crowd. Young, beautiful, with glossy hair and a smug smile, she walked toward us with confidence. "My husband's mistress." The crowd gasped again. Emily sobbed harder. And I felt my entire world collapsing as Michael reached out his hand toward her. He took her hand right there in front of me and our daughter and said, "This is who I love now." My chest tightened so hard I thought I couldn't breathe. The sound of families laughing and celebrating in the background now felt like cruel mockery. My daughter's tears turned into muffled sobs, and the sight of her clutching her cap like it was the only thing holding her together broke me in half. I wanted to scream, to slap him, to make this nightmare end, but my voice wouldn't come out. The woman, her name I would later learn was Rachel, looked me straight in the eye, not with shame or guilt but with pride. She tilted her chin upward, as though she had won something. And maybe she believed she had. I could feel the judgment in the stares around us, whispers that made my skin burn, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed in a reality I hadn't asked for. Emily finally snapped. Dad, are you insane? This is my graduation. How could you do this here? Her voice cracked, but it carried across the courtyard. Some people nodded in agreement, others just stared in silence, waiting for Michael's reply. But Michael didn't look ashamed. He didn't even look conflicted. His voice was steady, cold, like a man who had been rehearsing this moment. I didn't want to hide it anymore, he said. Rachel deserves to be acknowledged. I've spent too many years in a marriage I didn't want. I won't keep pretending. His words cut me open like shards of glass. Pretending? For 22 years I was just a pretense. The nights we stayed up with sick children, the birthdays, the struggles, the quiet mornings, was all of that nothing? My throat tightened, but I forced myself to speak. You chose this moment? You chose to humiliate your wife and daughter in front of everyone? Is this your idea of love? My voice shook, but it carried. Some people turned away out of discomfort, but others stared harder, eager for the unfolding disaster. Michael glanced at Rachel, then back at me, and for the first time I saw a glimmer of something, regret, maybe, but it vanished quickly. It had to be done, he muttered. Emily screamed, "You're disgusting!" and then bolted, running across the courtyard into the parking lot. I wanted to chase after her, but my knees were weak, my body trembling. I watched her disappear, my heart shattering with every step she took away from me. I finally gathered the strength to turn to Michael. My voice was quieter now, almost pleading. Why today, Michael? Why in front of Emily? His jaw clenched. Because Rachel deserves the truth too. I can't keep living two lives. Rachel squeezed his hand, her painted nails digging into his skin possessively, as if she were proud to be part of this destruction. I could barely process it when suddenly I heard a voice behind me. Mom! I turned and saw my sister, Clara, standing with her husband and children. She had come to surprise us, to celebrate Emily's big day. Her wide eyes took in the scene, the tears, the mistress, the betrayal. She rushed to my side and held my arm, steadying me before I collapsed. What's going on? She hissed at Michael. But Michael didn't answer. He simply tightened his grip on Rachel's hand and turned his back to us. He started walking away. Just like that. Clara gasped. He's leaving? He's just walking away from you and Emily? And that's exactly what he did. In front of dozens of witnesses, in front of our daughter's milestone, he left me standing there broken, with his mistress on his arm. I collapsed into Clara's embrace. My body shook with sobs I couldn't contain. I didn't care who saw anymore. The humiliation, the betrayal, the grief, it was too much. But even in that moment of despair, a spark lit inside me. A voice whispered through the storm of pain. This isn't the end. This is only the beginning. That night, after the chaos, Emily locked herself in her room and wouldn't speak to me. I sat outside her door, begging her to let me in, but all I heard was muffled crying. I knew her heart was as broken as mine. When I finally went to bed, the house felt colder, emptier, like a stranger's home. My phone buzzed, and when I checked it, I saw a message from an unknown number. My heart raced as I opened it. The message read, "You don't know the full truth about Michael. Meet me tomorrow if you want answers." I froze, staring at the screen, my hands trembling. Who could it be? And what truth could possibly be worse than what I had already lived through today? The number belonged to Rachel's ex-husband. I sat frozen on the edge of my bed, my hands trembling as I clutched the phone. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Why would Rachel's ex-husband contact me? What truth could he possibly know? I didn't want to believe anything could be worse than Michael humiliating me at our daughter's graduation, but a part of me knew the nightmare wasn't over. The night dragged on without sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Michael's face as he held Rachel's hand, the look of determination in his eyes as though we meant nothing to him. I saw Emily's tears, her diploma falling to the ground. And now the cryptic message played on repeat in my head. You don't know the full truth about Michael. By morning I had made up my mind. I had to go. Not because I wanted more pain, but because I couldn't live in the shadows of unanswered questions. My life, my daughter's future, depended on knowing the truth. I left a note for Emily, telling her I'd be back soon. She still wasn't speaking to me, her silence heavier than words. My heart ached, but I couldn't let her see how broken I was. I had to be strong, even if it was only an illusion. The address led me to a quiet diner on the edge of town, a place I hadn't been to in years. When I stepped inside, the smell of coffee and fried eggs hit me, but it did nothing to calm my nerves. At a corner booth, a man in his 40s sat waiting. His dark eyes were tired, haunted, and the moment our eyes met, I knew this was Rachel's ex-husband. "Mrs. Carter?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded, sliding into the booth. My hands gripped the edge of the table to stop them from shaking. "My name is David," he said. "I'm sorry for reaching out like this, but you need to know who Rachel really is, and what Michael has gotten himself into." His words sent a chill down my spine. "What do you mean?" I asked, my throat dry. David leaned in, his eyes flicking around the diner as if afraid someone might be listening. "Rachel isn't who she says she is. She's been doing this for years, targeting men with money, power, stability. She lures them in, destroys their families, drains them dry, and then moves on. I know because she did it to me." I felt my stomach twist. "But Michael, he left me for her willingly. He says he loves her." David gave a bitter laugh. "That's what I thought too. Until I lost everything. My house, my savings, even my relationship with my daughter. Rachel knows how to manipulate. She'll make Michael believe he chose her. But the truth? He's just her next victim." The diner suddenly felt too small, the walls closing in on me. "Why are you telling me this?" I whispered. David's expression softened. "Because I don't want to see another family destroyed the way mine was. And because Rachel, she's dangerous when she feels cornered. Michael has no idea what he's gotten into. And neither do you." Before I could respond, the bell above the diner door jingled. My blood froze when I turned my head. It was Rachel. She walked in, her heels clicking against the tile floor, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on us. And when they did, her lips curved into a slow, knowing smile. David cursed under his breath. "She followed me," he muttered. Rachel approached our table like a predator closing in on its prey. She didn't look surprised to see me. In fact, she looked amused. "Well, isn't this sweet?" she purred. "My ex-husband and my lover's wife sitting together, plotting against me?" Her voice was smooth, but her eyes were sharp, dangerous. People in the diner looked over, sensing tension, but Rachel didn't care. She leaned down, placing her manicured hand on the table between us. "You don't know what you're getting yourself into," she whispered, her words dripping with venom. David tensed. "Stay out of this, Rachel. She deserves to know the truth." Rachel's smile faltered, her eyes darkening. Then slowly, she straightened up and glanced at me. "Be careful, darling. Digging too deep into other people's lives can get you hurt." She turned on her heel and walked out, leaving a trail of icy fear behind her. I stared at the door long after she was gone, my body trembling. David leaned in again, his face pale. "You see what I mean?" he said urgently. "This isn't just an affair. Rachel's dangerous. And Michael, he's too blind to see it. If you don't act fast, she'll destroy him, and you." I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. My marriage was already in ruins, but now there was something darker, something more sinister lurking in the shadows. And then David dropped the bombshell. "There's one more thing you need to know," he whispered. "Rachel's not just after Michael. She's after Emily, too." I froze, my heart stopping in my chest. "My daughter? What do you mean she's after my daughter?" David leaned closer, his voice urgent, almost desperate. "Rachel has a pattern. She doesn't just break marriages. She wedges herself between parents and their children. She poisoned my daughter against me, made her hate me, made her believe I was the villain. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. My daughter won't even return my calls." My hands turned cold. "No," I whispered. "Emily. She would never fall for Rachel's lies." David shook his head. "Don't underestimate her. Rachel knows how to twist words, how to play the victim. She'll convince Emily that you're bitter, that you're standing in the way of her father's happiness. And if Emily starts believing that, you'll lose her too. I felt as though the floor had collapsed beneath me. My marriage was gone. My husband was gone. And now the one bond one thought untouchable, the bond between me and my daughter, was under threat. I rushed home, my heart racing. When I opened the door, Emily was sitting on the couch, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. She looked up at me, and the words that came out of her mouth nearly broke me. "Dad called," she whispered. "He said you're trying to turn me against him. He said Rachel isn't what you think." Felt like knives stabbing me all over again. "Emily, no. That's not true. Please, you have to believe me. Rachel is dangerous. She's—" "Stop!" Emily shouted, her voice shaking. "I don't want to hear it. I'm so tired of the fighting. I just want us to be a family again." Tears streamed down her face and I reached out for her, but she pulled away. That hurt more than anything Michael had done. I realized then how fast Rachel's poison was spreading. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every shadow in the hallway, made me feel like Rachel was already here, circling us like a wolf. I kept replaying David's words in my head. She's after Emily too. The next morning I decided I couldn't stay silent anymore. If Michael wouldn't listen to me, I would confront him directly. I drove to his new apartment, Rachel's apartment. My hand shook on the steering wheel, but I knew I had no choice. When he opened the door, Rachel was right behind him, her arm draped casually around his waist. She smirked when she saw me, like a cat who had cornered a bird. "Michael," I said firmly, ignoring her. "We need to talk. Alone." But Rachel laughed softly. "Oh, darling, we don't keep secrets here." Michael crossed his arms. "What do you want?" I swallowed hard, my eyes burning with tears I refused to let fall. "I don't care what you do to me. I don't care if you humiliate me in front of the whole world. But you leave Emily out of this. Do you understand me? You leave her alone." For the first time I saw Michael hesitate. His eyes flicked between Rachel and me, and for a split second, I thought I saw the man I had once loved, the father who adored his daughter. But then Rachel leaned into him, whispering something in his ear, and the softness vanished. "You're overreacting," he muttered. "Rachel would never hurt Emily." Rachel's eyes gleamed, her smile wicked. "Oh, I'd never hurt her. I just think she deserves the truth. She deserves to know who her mother really is." My blood ran cold. "Don't you dare." But Rachel only tilted her head, her smile widening. "Or what?" The rage inside me boiled over. For the first time since this nightmare began, I didn't feel weak. I didn't feel broken. I felt powerful. I stepped closer, my voice low but steady. "You can take my husband. You can smear my name. But if you ever try to come between me and my daughter, I swear on everything, I will fight you with every breath in my body. You don't know me, Rachel. But you're about to." For a moment Rachel's smile faltered. Just for a moment. Then she turned away with a mocking laugh, but I saw it, the crack in her armor. Michael looked uneasy, torn, but he didn't stop me when I turned and walked out. My legs trembled, but my heart burned with fire. For the first time I felt like I wasn't the victim of this story anymore. When I returned home, Emily was sitting in her room, scrolling on her phone. She looked up at me, and I sat beside her quietly. No lectures. No warnings. Just silence. Slowly, she leaned against me, resting her head on my shoulder. And in that fragile moment I realized something. Rachel could try to poison us, Michael could abandon us, but the bond between a mother and daughter is not so easily broken. I kissed the top of Emily's head and whispered, "We'll get through this. Together." But deep down I knew the war with Rachel wasn't over. It was only just beginning.